Today, I'm joined by Jenevieve Walbrecker, a dental anthropologist who focuses her professional work in forensics and is applying for a PhD to explore more of the world of dental pathology. As someone that loves teeth and is fascinated by anthropology, I had so much fun getting to pick her brain. A big thank you to Jenevieve for spending so much time with me and answering all of my wacky questions. I hope you enjoy my conversation with her as much as I enjoyed having it. How you doing today?
I'm good. It's been a really busy day, um, but nice. I think I was really excited to talk and kind of hear more about like what you do on your podcast.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear about everything you do. You said you work at a college?
So right now I actually do more like contract work and I help to basically I pick up deceased individuals and then I kind of act as like a liaison between like where the death occurred and moving them, transporting them to wherever they need to go. So that can be a mortuary, it could be a forensic center, but I have taught in the past.
Okay.
So
And is that like an independent third party that handles the bodies, or is that through a hospital organization?
it can be. For what I do here in Tennessee, it is through a third party. I guess there was a higher need for something like that in the area, but I've only lived here a couple months in Tennessee, so I'm still kind of getting a gauge for like the like forensic community here and um, how that all works.
Yeah.
So
Where'd you move from?
I was living in St. Petersburg, Florida for 2 years,
Oh, nice.
and it
How's
was
that
awesome.
adjustment been from Florida to Tennessee?
It's been really good. It's been interesting. I think I loved the beach in Florida so much, and St. Pete has just this like really amazing community of people. There's a lot of artists, um, creatives for sure. But I think I missed like the seasonality of being further north a lot. I grew up in the Midwest, so I'm used to, all four seasons and having kind of the same weather every day in Florida was it was a little shock to the system, but not necessarily in a bad way. I still visit probably like once a month, every other month to see my friends down there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm born and raised in California, so like we really don't have seasons like at
right,
all. Like right now I'm
right.
like, oh, it feels like fall outside and it's 85 degrees, but there's like a slight breeze and I'm like that wind is fall.
Yeah, that's funny. What part of California are you in?
I'm just outside of Los Angeles.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I lived in Santa Monica for a little bit.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm like just north in like Ventura County. Were you doing forensics in St. Petersburg as well?
No, I was taking a little bit of a hiatus, but I have basically I've been doing a lot of like, research. I basically look at teeth in a forensic context, and I compare antemortem, which is like for death, with postmortem after death dental x-rays, and you can use those to garner a lot of information about the individual. So right now I'm looking at getting my PhD from the university here while also like maintaining a job, career with that. To kind of further my career, get my license to do forensic anthropology, like hopefully in a couple years. And it's just been a really wild ride, like getting to this point.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So
hmm
to get those dental records, obviously you have to identify the individual post-mortem
Mm.
and then do you access them through the dentist office or is that public information? Like how do you get the before death x-rays?
Yeah, yeah. So it depends on, I guess it depends on the situation. So I'm not actually licensed to make a forensic ID at this point in my career. That might be something I try to explore later on. Um, what typically goes into that is there's like a massive like dental database, or you'll have x-rays that are on hand maybe at like a in my experience I was working with ones from a medical examiner's office. So it's like your local morgue. So when I was living in Nevada, I was finishing my master's degree and I was basically collecting data from x-rays there that were provided like on site, but they also have like the database that they can pull from in the case of where you have an unidentified individual. So you can pull those x-rays and compare with like the body on site, or if you are missing, if the person is missing teeth. There's a lot that kind of goes into it. But as of right now, I've been researching like how can we use dental pathology? So basically like indicators in like the mandible or jaw where pathology is present, and are those useful indicators for making a forensic ID? That's not something that's actually utilized very much. Usually, from what I've ascertained, it's like forensic odontologists look more at like what's present on the teeth. So, do they have like a lot of fillings? What's the anatomy look like? There's a whole lot to it. But my background goes a lot into kind of the dentistry side of things because I was originally going to school to be a dentist.
Hmm.
And then I took one anthropology class and was like, that's what I ought to be doing.
That's so cool. So, did you study dental anthropology specifically, or did you do forensics, or?
Yeah, it was kind of a wild, wacky ride to get here, but I was going to school to be a dentist, and then I realized I just took a random anthropology course as like a elective, and I just really fell in love with the science. It's like the science of studying humans. Like, what are we about? Like our culture, language, archaeology, the bio side of things. And I found I really aligned with bio in particular. And maybe that's because of my background in biology, but it just seemed like a good fit. And then I found out that dental anthropology was a field. And I was like, no way. These are like my two favorite things in the world.
Yeah,
And it happened to be a field. So that is what I have been pursuing the last several years.
that's so cool. And do you want
Yeah.
to continue to do forensic stuff, or is that kind of just like a byproduct? Because I know a lot of doctors before they like get into residency or whatever, they'll be working for like a funeral home or a morgue and they're doing autopsies as kind of just like a
Yeah.
stepping stone. So is that a stepping stone, or is forensics where your passion lies?
Forensics is definitely where my passion lies. I think that what I really want to be doing is probably teaching at the university level, maybe full time eventually, but then doing contract work or just working with like local investigators to help like what in whatever area I guess I would end up. But the thing I would like real that I'm very passionate about is like disaster relief. Like in the event of, mass casualties, I feel like that's where I see myself like doing work, but there's obviously like a call for that. So I see myself doing like the teaching and working, and then if there is a need for that, like in my particular area, then that's like what I guess draws me to the field.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
fascinating. Uh,
Yeah.
with the dental x-rays, I'm really interested in that aspect of it, like kind of cross-examining x-rays
Hmm.
to look at, I guess, to help with identification. You said that you don't have like the license to identify at the moment, but
Yep.
are you involved in that process at all, or like do you get to witness it?
Yeah, I've gotten to witness it. It's very cool in a way to see. I feel like you can see so much of someone's life through their teeth, which is like maybe like a strange thing to say, but when I worked in dentistry, I realized really quickly how unique everyone's teeth are to them. It's
Yeah.
like one thing I have love to say is um like you've heard the saying like everyone is unique like a snowflake.
Hmm.
People's teeth are kind of like that. They're like highly genetically derived and they're so unique to the individual. Like no one's teeth are exactly the same as someone else's. You can get a good feel for someone's, population affinity based on unique traits of it. So I could look at your teeth, for example, and say like, oh, you have these unique traits. This kind of tells me maybe a little bit about like where you came from. Maybe I can get indicators of have you had a stressful life? There's just so much information you can glean from it. Um, does that answer your question maybe a little
Yeah,
bit?
yeah, that's so
Yeah,
fascinating. Do you have any examples of what those indicators could be?
yeah. I'm trying to think of maybe some good ones. Okay, so one that I was taught like really early on that was kind of like basic was like and Asian populations. One thing you can see is like your two central teeth,
Hmm.
your two front teeth. If they have more of like a spatulate shape,
Hmm.
that can be an indicator of potential like Asian ancestry. And that's very like that is a big one we look at. But you can also look at things really small, like the little ridges on your teeth.
Hmm.
You can have bigger or smaller, they're called cusps. You can have bigger or smaller like versions of those on your teeth that tell me like, oh, maybe he has more European ancestry or African. Like there's so much to it. And it's a field that I feel like is growing and it's starting to get more into like genetics. We're starting to look at like what are the genetic markers for like why are the teeth unique to the individual?
Hmm.
So
That's so cool. That's really
yeah,
cool. So like how does that, if someone has mixed ethnicities, and I feel like that's something that's, more common as time goes on, is
for
like you have
sure.
people with very mixed ethnic backgrounds. Would that be indicated in the teeth? Like, let's say someone is European and Asian descent, like if they have more spatulated front two teeth, but then also like deeper grooves, like does it show up like that, or is it not as cut and dry as that?
Hmm. Um, I mean, I think it is very context dependent, but generally how it works is we have, let's say, 25 different like unique traits that we're looking for, and each trait is scaled. Um, Morphologically. Like, so morphology just refers to like the shape, structure of what we're looking at. But you can also look into metrics, so you can get like the width and length of the tooth, for example, and those are also unique. But when we look at those unique traits, each one is scaled almost kind of like by degree of presence. So is the trait absent? Is it there? That's what we want to note first. And then we want to note to what degree is it present? So if you did have kind of this spatula shaped incisor, so the more like bent rather than flat,
Hmm.
um, we'd say, okay, like is this a 3 or is it a 5? 5 being like the most extreme, or is it 0? Is it not there at all? So we look at that trait and then we look at, let's say 20 plus more and we input it into a system designed by Richard Scott that kind of enters it into this big database of data that we have put together of different populations around the world. And it spits out like stats of the likelihood, like the potential that someone is, let's say, 10% this, 20% that. So we do have those things. They do exist. The only thing that is kind of a hindrance is there's just not enough data. If you want to have like a really good output of information like that, you need to have worldly samples.
Right.
So there is a lot of samples for a lot of different populations, but for it to be all inclusive of all of the world, that is going to take a lot of time and effort, I think. I do think AI is going to help that, but I don't think we're at the point where AI can quite yet scale those traits, but I do feel like it's coming down the road.
Yeah, that is so interesting because it's like you would have to rely on this practice being done globally for you to pull from such a large database. Is
Exactly.
it a relatively new field? Like all of the data that we have for dental anthropology, is it something that's been done across like hundreds of years, or is it like do you know how long it's been around? Because
Yeah, so from what I know, I'm trying to think of like some of the earliest dental anthropologists. I would say the field is very new, in terms of like in contrast to other subjects. Probably within like the last 100 years, it's kind of
wow,
become something that they've looked at. Um, I know there was like a lot of studies done in Alaska. I used to live there for a bit, but there was this guy named Hrdlička, like in the early, I think, 1900s, and he was basically looking at these like indigenous populations in Alaska, like out in the bush, um, and he noted like unique traits on their teeth. So that was one of like the earlier instances where we have like documentation that someone was looking at this, but that wasn't necessarily like his goal. He just happened to collect a massive amount of information. And then later people were looking at it and like, oh, there's something here. So I wouldn't say it really caught its footing until more maybe like the 60s or 70s. And
wow.
that's when, my mentors, like, well, one of my mentors was kind of entering the field and kind of got the ball rolling. So now it's more of a practice, at least within anthropology. As far as the dental field, I'm not as certain as to when that would have started. But within anthropology, what we're looking at is like demography. So we're looking at like the stats surrounding birth, death, income, incidence of disease, basically things that illustrate change through time in human populations. So, and then we're also looking at, you know, how teeth relate to ancient human communities too. So we're looking at different things than what maybe like a dentist is looking for,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. That's kind
Yeah.
of what, as far as I see it, that's kind of what encompasses dental anthropology as opposed to dentistry.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
fascinating. And are you guys able to go like for instance, if you go to like a museum, like could a dental anthropologist get samples of like teeth or mandibles
Mhm.
or something like that? And like, are they preserved enough to where you can compare it to someone that may have been alive 1,000 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the coolest things about the field, in my opinion, is that um, teeth are actually, in a lot of circumstances, they're more resilient than bone.
Hmm.
So in like older populations, depending on, how a death occurred or the state of like how the bodies are, let's say you have like a massive skeletal collection. The teeth generally are preserved extremely well.
Hmm.
And I've worked with a couple of populations like through Europe and here in the US too, where you can look at teeth from someone several hundreds of years ago, 1,000 years ago. I've even looked at Neanderthal teeth.
Wow.
And yeah, they're remarkably well preserved and long lasting, and even the traits you can see on them, you can garner information from. So it's not just modern populations in a big sense. It extends into these big bioarchaeological samples too. So there's a lot you can do in the field
That's
also.
amazing. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
know that like with other animals, for example, like we find shark teeth that are like hundreds of thousands of years old
Yeah.
at like the bottom of the sea. So I didn't know if human teeth were as well
hmm
preserved. That's so interesting. How how much have teeth changed over like the lifespan of humans? Like, is it something that have been fundamentally similar? Because I know like obviously animals, whether they're herbivores or carnivores, like different teeth shape.
hmm
So like as we've evolved, how have our teeth changed?
Ooh, good question. So we are technically relatives of like Neanderthals,
Hmm.
for example. Like we have modern populations that share a certain amount of DNA with them. But technically, modern humans fall into the genus Homo, um, so Homo sapiens. And I would say within like the last 20,000 years, forgive me if the dates are a little wonky. Um, I don't think they've really changed too much because in like the massive evolutionary history of, becoming these upright walking beings, we are just this tiny, tiny little window of time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, modern humans, like our teeth really haven't shown like extensive change. But if you were to compare like our close relatives Neanderthal teeth with human teeth, very different. Like similar looking, but if you take like the scale of the size, it's very different. So Neanderthal teeth, for example, are like very I think it's called tarodont. They're called tarodont teeth. They're just really big. They're thick. They almost look
Hmm.
like if you put like a 1.5 times scale increase on a human tooth. Just
How
blew it up a
interesting.
little bit. Yeah. It's really cool.
Did they have all the same teeth, like the same number of teeth, the same positions, or since they were bigger, there was less teeth?
Yeah, they had the same amount of teeth. They had the same dental formula is what we call it. So you would have uh, all your incisors, canines, premolars, molars. Those are the like four groups. So they had all the same like locations for them and the same amount. They were just bigger.
Interesting. So I would
Yeah.
imagine that they were bigger, like just in like bigger skulls and mandibles, and just everything was
Yeah,
larger.
like really robust in comparison to modern humans. Modern human teeth look like very cute and tiny in comparison to them. But Neanderthal teeth are just like wildly interesting. And so are just if you've ever looked at like the bones of a Neanderthal, if you get the chance, you should like Google it. Like a Neanderthal skeleton compared to a human, like just a regular human skeleton, you'd be like, whoa.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that right now. Let's
Yeah.
see. Um, I'm so interested. Neanderthal skeleton. Oh, whoa, yeah.
Do you kind of see what I'm saying? They're like more robust. The long bones are like more curved. They just had a different shape. It's almost, I don't want to say stout, but
Yeah, definitely
kind
more
of.
so. Like their whole torso seems just like more compact than ours.
hmm
That's so fascinating. Yeah, the skull looks a lot different too.
Yeah.
Like especially I can see like where the nose would be and like the is it called like the orbital bones where the eye sockets are?
Yeah.
Those
Yes,
are
right.
very pronounced. This is so fascinating.
Yeah. I think I actually have, oh, I might not be able to get it. I have a Neanderthal skull I've used to teach before. Oh, it's a cast, but um, when you like show them side by side, it's just really useful teaching model because you can see like the robusticity in the Neanderthal and then how more I don't know how much less robust the human skull is. But you definitely
Yeah.
see like the I'm trying to think of like the big traits. I don't do as much in paleoanthropology, which is what Neanderthals fall
Hmm.
into. Um, but okay, so some like common traits with that would be having the larger teeth, that's taradont teeth, and then having this like pronounced brow ridge, basically.
Hmm.
So this area kind of being more like expressed and big.
Yeah.
And then there's also, so your maxilla is this bone kind of here, like your
Can I
upper
do
jaw.
this? Oh, whoa. Okay. Is this working?
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah, I
Oh,
can see it.
cool. Awesome. Um, yeah, wait, hold on. Let
Yeah.
me find a good. Yeah, like the brow ridge right here.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
And then if you look at like the upper jaw, basically,
Uh-huh.
um, you can see what looks like it looks almost like a little bit puffy. And that's what we call maxillary puffiness. And that's another like really unique trait to the Neanderthals.
With this, oh, this is kind of like an animated. So up here.
Yeah, it's just kind of like blown up looking.
Yeah.
And then you also see like the lower jaw here,
Hmm.
how like wide that bone is kind of towards the back. That's your ramus.
Yeah.
So it's just like an extremely robust version of what you would see on a modern human.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, that's
Where's
something
I
to
saw
think
one
about in
where
this
we could
exhibit.
see teeth.
If you had a, yeah, if you had a comparison.
I could probably do a side. I could probably find a side by side. Here's kind of like a front image. His
Hmm.
teeth. Are teeth bones? Or are they technically not bones? Like, are they
They're not
similar?
bone. They're I would say they're different. They it's a completely different like mineral structure.
Hmm.
So teeth are like one of the hardest materials. Um so if like I'm trying to think of how to explain this. Um Teeth are more like resilient, I guess, to
Hmm.
stress. So if they're like put under pressure, like if you put like a substantial amount of pressure on top of a bone versus a tooth, the way it would break down would be very different. So, like, their molecular structure is very different. But they tend to get grouped together because I don't think people realize, well, a lot of folks don't realize like the variation between them. They're like, oh, it's all the same. They're all connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've never broken a bone, but I've chipped a tooth.
Yeah.
And like just any sort of damage to teeth just like gives me like the heebie-jeebies. I
Mm,
love teeth. Like that's like one of the first thing I noticed about people was like I'm just so fascinated by teeth. That's why I find this so interesting. And like
so cool.
when I'm
Yeah.
really, really stressed out, I have dreams about my teeth, which I know is kind of like a thing in psychology in itself is like if you have dreams about your teeth falling out, that means you're
Yeah.
stressed and everything. Um,
Hmm.
but I have dreams about like my teeth like chipping and whatnot, and that's how I know I'm really stressed. I'm
Oh,
like, okay, I gotta like meditate or something.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
like
for
the
sure.
idea of like any sort of dental like trauma to teeth is like so like heebie-jeebies to me.
Oh,
Oh, here's a little
interesting.
side by side. I wonder if this is a good one. Was it helpful the way I shared it with me like in the picture?
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Is it doing it again or
Yeah, I can see it.
okay. So allegedly this is a side by side. So yeah, it just seems so much larger.
Yeah.
It's like
Um, yeah, you can see like how like it's almost like even the bones of the skull or just the cranium in general are so thick. It's a little hard for me to describe, but I guess you can see it like really, really well there. The you can see like how much more robust the like Neanderthal is. And
mhm.
what's kind of crazy is paleoanthropology is like the study that extends like into Neanderthals, but it also looks at other groups of like things that were related, like other potential species that were related to humans distantly, or like ancestors of these groups that existed before modern humans were like even on the earth. Uh, and you can look at those like the skeletal elements that we have in the fossil record, and it's crazy how much variation there is between them. But you'll see skulls, for example, from these other groups that are even more robust than the Neanderthal, or you'll have really, really small ones. So you have like have you heard of the Hobbit?
Like I've only heard
Like
of it in
the
terms of like Lord of the Rings.
Right. So there's this island in the Philippines that they found, I think in the 70s, this these like really, really small little skeletons basically, and
Hmm.
they nicknamed it the Hobbit, and they're really tiny. I can't remember like what their stature was, but the skulls look so much like modern humans in a way, but also very different.
Hmm.
So they look like they could be ancestral to modern humans, but there's a lot of debate, I guess, as to like where do they fall in the fossil record? Are they more or less related to humans than we thought? Like how old are they? And it's kind of crazy because it was just this small window in time that these like tiny little creatures were exhibit like existing on this island in the middle of
That's
the
so
ocean.
interesting.
And we have other groups like that in paleoanth that are all over. And you see a lot of them in Europe, um, Southeast Asia. So modern humans, like I was saying, like we've existed in such a small window of time, and there's this vast history that extends before us with all these unique ancestors. And it's not just about their teeth, but it's like what was like the material culture of those groups like? How did they subsist? So you can also look at their teeth to garner information, which is like wildly fascinating, but I do less work with that. It's more just like a cool image of like how deep the history goes. Like, uh, getting off
Yeah,
track.
that's so
Yeah.
fascinating. So I would assume that the reasons that there's a fluctuation in bone structure and skull size and tooth size and everything is primarily based on diet and then like environmental stresses. Is that like an
Mm.
accurate interpretation, or is there a handful of reasons why there's so much variance, like between the islands
Yeah.
in the Philippines versus like a Neanderthal, where it's like so robust, and then you have like a tiny little skull? What
Yeah.
causes such variation?
Well, I mean, it's when you study human evolution, we tend to look at all of these different groups and we basically build like a, what are they called? It's basically have like a big family tree.
Hmm.
And we're looking at, okay, well, these ones existed, this particular group existed, let's say 2.5 million years ago, when we're looking at like the carbon, nitrogen values for material garnered from them. But then you have others that are, let's say, 6 million years ago. So you have this big span of time where all these different groups have existed or coexisted very, very likely. Um,
And
and
I'm sorry, hold on. I'm dog sitting, and these dogs go crazy sometimes. So let me
you're
just make
fine.
sure. I'm sorry. Continue with what you were saying.
See, now I'm
We're
thinking about
talking
that.
about
Right.
like where they're like the big span of history where like you see samples from like 2 million years ago versus 5 million years ago, 6 million years ago, and the
Yeah.
where they evolved from.
Yeah. I think a lot of it just comes down to human evolution, and I'm not really sure like what you do and don't know with that. But it's I'm trying to think of how to answer that question. Yeah, the reason you see so many differences is it's literally down to evolution, and we're starting to look more into like now that since the human genome was recorded, I think during the Clinton administration.
Hmm.
Now that we have that data and it's becoming more accessible to like student researchers even, you're able to literally just go online to a website and look up like a genetic SNP and then kind of see like what does it um, like maybe what like markers is it associated with. So now researchers are able to say, okay, we're seeing this like in my situation, we'd be like, there's this unique dental trait. why is it there? And then you can go and see like what SNPs of DNA kind of align with that and get an idea of we're starting to be able to do that kind of thing a
That's
little
pretty
bit
amazing.
more. Yeah, it's crazy how far the field has come while it's also so new
Hmm.
in a way. And I think it's starting to get more momentum, like definitely since the 70s.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
interesting. And like clearly technology has played a big role in that to where, like you said, you can access a database or a website where you can just get like a snippet of genome, which is
Yeah.
like pretty amazing. Something that wasn't even accessible, like the actual like mapping of the human genome wasn't, like you said, it was it the 70s or 80s when it was mapped. So like even 60
Oh no,
years ago.
it was even more recent. It was like in the 2000s, I think. I think maybe 2002. This is like a thing that wasn't even there before I was born. And now that we have it all mapped and it's becoming accessible, that's like a big thing I think is happening now in science is there's um not to say that like past generations of researchers were doing anything wrong. I think it's just the way information is shared is becoming so much more ubiquitous in like more recent generations that we're like, why would we gatekeep information when we can share it like broadly if it's accessible and able and if there's funding for it? Um, to help other people. So the fact that we can access this stuff like online is really cool and it's giving more opportunities to people who might not have the ability to do research like that or who might just not have access to funding to do it.
Yeah.
And there's been a huge push even since I started in anthropology where I'm seeing that massive shift and it's really really cool. It's I mean it's a difficult time I think to be in science with the state of politics as it is, but I don't want to touch on that. And but it's also an exciting time, you know, with the technology we have and this big boom it's undergone in the last couple decades. So it's an interesting time to be a scientist or just a researcher in general.
Yeah. And like we don't have to get into it, but like with the all the cuts to funding and everything that's going on, I think that's even more important for it to be like so widely shared to where it is more accessible. So like if someone that
Mhm.
is researching but doesn't have access to any sort of funds, but that they can access an online database, like
Yeah,
if they can't do the actual physical studies themselves but can look it up, like we can still advance despite what's going on financially or with resources.
exactly. Exactly. It's been really heartening in a way to see um I know a lot of anthropologists have I mean it's not just anthropologists, this goes much broader than that, but speaking from what I have seen in the field in the last year is there's so many people who have lost jobs and the thing is that even though those jobs are lost, it doesn't mean that the like collections that these people, you know, might oversee don't still need cared for.
Hmm.
Um, I've talked with so many researchers around the world who, you know, they might have lost funding for like half of the hours that they need to manage like a massive skeletal collection or um, I'm trying to think of like a good example. I met a lady who was overseeing a collection, basically returning bodies, like bodies found like in a war zone, and trying to get them returned to the families. But the bodies have been gone without identification for, let's say, 40, 50 years. So getting them back to the families is like it's really big. It's very important to the people who are like the holders of collections like that. And I see so many of them continuing to do the work, even though they're not getting paid. And it's just because of this initiative to still care for, even though these people are deceased, it's still to care for like what they represent to care for the families of the individuals. And I'm seeing so much of that through science in general, as far as eh, not losing the value of the history just because of the circumstance of the world right now. So
Yeah.
I think that's, in a way, it is sad, but it's also very heartening to see how much people care and how much love they put into their craft.
Yeah, that definitely
For
restores some faith.
sure,
Like even
for
just
sure.
hearing that is like I wish that the circumstances were different, but the fact that people are still working this hard and putting so much care into things, like yeah, that gives me a lot of hope. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we talk more about what you're doing with your PhD? Because I'm interested in that because it seems like it's a little bit of a shift away from teeth in particular. Because you mentioned it's more focused on the mandible, or can you explain it a little bit more to me?
Yeah, so I'm actually applying for a PhD
Okay, okay.
right now. But one of the things I think I want to do with it is I find dental pathology so interesting, and maybe it's because I I did root canals for years
Hmm.
in dental work. Um, but I feel like it's a really, looking at the pathology of teeth is, I feel like these are markers that can be used to identify individuals that aren't being used maybe as much as they could be. So what I'm sort of hoping to do, with whatever program I get into, is to continue exploring that, but maybe to broaden the scope, increase my knowledge in general of maybe like what I've been contemplating this a lot today, so I have not formally like thought this through, I suppose. But I guess I'd like to broaden the like sample size, like to be much bigger, to move away from surveys and just using like in the past I used more like old school radiographs. So like the x-rays your dentist might take
Hmm.
in-house. I've used those, but I love working with CT scans when you get more of that like 3D approach. And I'd like to look at pathology that is indicated in those scans. I feel like with AI, we can easily teach it maybe in the next couple of years to look for the traits that we already use in a forensic situation, but extend it to pathological variations and then use AI to get a better idea of like the metrics and maybe learn how to scale those things.
Hmm.
That might not make a ton of sense, but that is kind of where I see myself going as far as
Yeah.
research. So basically, just using something I think could be really valuable to increase the rate of identification.
Hmm.
So that's what I want to do is I want to give the field like more opportunities to increase like identifying an individual who's maybe gone unidentified for years, or it's a more recent circumstance. That's what I want to do.
That's very interesting. And when we talk about dental pathology, what does that exactly mean? And like what falls under dental pathology?
Um, Pathology would be like anything that has caused like this particular area to sort of decay or to break down over time. So with teeth, that could mean, when you get a cavity, what happens to the tooth is you have these like microbacteria that like accumulate there, if you're eating too much candy or cereal, things like that.
Hmm.
And if that material is not getting, cleaned or removed, it causes decay to occur. So you'll get cavities, and if cavities get worse, you might need um, a tooth pulled, or you might develop basically like abscesses, things that eat away at the bone and the teeth present. So what I'm saying is you can look at those as markers to potentially identify people.
Very
Yeah.
interesting. So that's not something that's very widely explored at the moment.
At the moment, when it comes to dental anthropology, it does not seem like it's something that's being used. And I think part of the reason is I've seen through my own experience like this almost discordance between dentistry and anthropology, like as two separate fields.
Hmm.
So forensic odontologists have that like the dentistry background. They go to school to be a dentist and then they go to school for several more years to train to identify, deceased individuals. And then you have dental anthropologists who have more of this like academic anthropological background. And so there's these two sort of fields and there's so much overlap between what we study and what we do, yet we seem to not like interact. I don't, it seems like they don't interact as far as like how we interpret the data we have.
Interesting.
So I think because I have this like mixed background where yes, I've been in academia for a bit, but I also have this like applied experience, working in dentistry that I feel like I kind of have this like marriage of fields that gives me like maybe a unique insight that isn't happening as much as I'd like to see it. I would love these two groups to interact and talk more, but it seems like both kind of are not at war with one another. It just seems like one is like, well, I know what's best, and then the other is, maybe a little less so. At least that's been my experience.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that's like the main divide is just like we know what we're doing more than you do? Like why are they not overlapping? Why are they not communicating?
Yeah, I don't totally know. I think it's actually sort of stumped me because I think we have so much to learn from both sides. Dentists can learn a lot from anthropologists and vice versa. Um, it's not often that I meet like it's not often that I meet people who have a good background in both.
Hmm.
Typically, what happens is I have met researchers who were dentists first and then became interested in anthropology and then they started it. But it seemed very far and few between in my experience.
Interesting.
I think it's just a difference in like applied methods,
Hmm.
probably. Different understanding. Like dentists are working, with modern groups, whereas, anthropologists are working with we're working with past populations. Forensic anthropologists will be working with, newer groups too. Um, it's kind of hard to get an understanding of, I guess, why, I don't know. But I would love to see them collaborating a little bit more.
Yeah, that'd be so interesting
Yeah.
and like would obviously help the advancement of stuff. I wonder if it's because like it's just two different routes. Like if you're going
Yeah.
into dentistry, it's like you're going for, like you said, a more applied route where you're learning like how to work on teeth and like you are learning obviously like the biology and the anatomy and all of that, but like you're training and studying to apply it when like
Hmm.
you're more on the research academic side of it. So like I think maybe there's just like a splinter in direction where like perhaps it starts at the
Yeah.
same general interest, but then it kind of splinters. Like I
Hmm.
don't know, I'm trying to draw a comparison maybe with like psychology or something, like the difference between a psychologist that researches psychology and then someone that's like an applied psychologist, like a therapist. Like maybe that's,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an adequate comparison. Um, but that's kind
I
of like something that I draw where it's like you're training to like do behavioral therapy or like help diagnose people. And then if you're doing research in psychology, you're like looking at the history and trying to find new findings and conduct studies and whatnot. I
mhm.
don't know. Does that feel like an adequate comparison to you?
Yeah, what I would say it's kind of just the difference. I think what you're saying or what I'm interpreting is you're saying like research versus methods, like
Hmm.
theory versus applied utility. And I think it's because we both groups are just applying their methods differently.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think you're actually very like on the pulse of what it is, but it's getting a little theoretical. So
Yeah.
yeah, a little
Getting way
difficult.
out there. That's what
Yeah.
my brain starts getting out there very quickly.
No, it's perfect though. I love that you're like picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Um, what's your favorite tooth? Do you have a favorite tooth?
Yeah, I've actually thought it's such a funny question. Yeah, I think it'd be the upper first molar. Um, that one always has a lot of like cool diversity to it. Aesthetically, I think it's like one of the most interesting teeth to look at too.
Which one is
So that
that,
probably
if we're going
it's
back?
let me count. Be like the sixth tooth back. Or am I messing that up? No, it's the sixth tooth back. If you have all of, you know, there was like a point in time in dentistry where like a lot of people were having like their premolars pulled. So
Oh,
not everyone has like the same dental arcade, but
what was that about?
I don't know. I this is just an observation of like maybe public health, but like I know like my parents' generation, like this like 40 to like 50-year-olds, for some reason they were having a lot of teeth pulled.
Yeah.
Don't totally know why. But anyways, it's the bigger teeth in the back are your molars.
Mhm.
And then the ones that are similar looking but smaller, those are the premolars. So everyone has two central incisors, your canine, two premolars, and then the three molars back here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the first premolar is your favorite?
It's the first molar. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, the first molar.
Yep.
And what about that so fascinating to you?
I think it just has a lot of diversity to it. That's where we see like the expression of a lot of unique morphological traits. Um, one of my favorite traits is called Carabelli's cusp, and it basically like when it's really pronounced on the tooth, it almost looks like a little top hat or like a little thing you
Huh.
could like. It almost looks like you hung a hat on on like on the outside of the tooth. It's just a I think it's a cute trait. So
I'm gonna look at this. Okay,
Carabelli's cusp.
here's all the teeth. I'm gonna pull this up so you can show me exactly what you're talking. I want to see the little top hat. I don't know which picture would be best. Can you see this?
Not well,
Something like
it's
this.
yeah, okay. So you see that sort of like bump right there?
That's being circled.
Yes.
Hmm.
That is Carabelli's cusp. And it just looks like you could take a hat and hang it on it.
And not everyone has, or does
And
everyone
not
have this?
everyone has that.
Really?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying when we look at like unique like physical traits on the teeth.
Uh-huh.
Like
What's up
that
with
is
these
one
ones?
trait we look at. Yeah. So oh there's that one. Yeah, right there on the it's like the third one to the
Th
right
this one?
below it. Yeah,
This one.
I think so. It's really hard to see on my phone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want me to click on this one?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, see? Pretty cool.
It kind of looks like, you know, those like crystal formations that come out of the ground.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Is that
So
a stalactite or stalagmite? I always get them mixed up.
stalag stalagmite is on the floor, stalactite is from the ceiling.
Right, good.
Yeah. I only remember that I like went on like a little cave exploration thing, which was
So
very much
cool.
like I don't really do well in like enclosed tight spaces. I get real
Oh,
claustrophobic and like,
yeah, yeah.
but I just remember them saying stalactites are on the ceiling because they have to hang on tight to stay up. That's like a
Yeah,
little
okay.
what is that called? Like a little association to remember.
I don't remember,
Like
but I feel
a
like I've been on a
moniker.
cave tour. Moniker, maybe? I should know that.
So what causes the Carabelli's cusp? Like, how would a tooth
So
get to this?
we don't totally know. That's kind of where these like DNA studies that are starting to come out are this is why they're so interesting is we don't completely understand like from an evolutionary perspective like why these traits exist. Um all we know is that they're there and there's like different degrees of, you know, presence that they have. So some people have for like if we're sticking with like the Carabelli's cusp thing, there's a lot of people who don't have it or it's at such a small rate or small level of expression, I guess,
Hmm.
that it would just go unnoticed someone's entire life. Um, yeah, so what we're trying to figure out with like these new DNA studies, I guess, is, and I don't really delve into this too much, so I'm just speaking about like research I've read, is we're looking at those like SNPs and we're like, okay, well, these 5 SNPs, for example, seem to be related to this particular trait. Why is it there?
Interesting.
And understanding that can give us so much insight to so many things that it's going to be really interesting in the next maybe decade to kind of figure out like I think even from like a public health standpoint, this information could be really useful.
That's so interesting. And
Mhm.
so there hasn't been any sort of correlation discovered yet of like certain populations are more likely to have Carabelli's cusp or
Well, we know that like certain populations might be more likely to have one thing or another, but we've only ascertained that information really from like how prominent is that particular trait in that group of people,
right,
and then comparing it to other populations.
right.
So that's kind of like where we've been. And now we're looking at like, okay, this is what the DNA shows us. And we're able
Interesting.
to give more like sophisticated metrics to it rather than just exploring the morphology.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, I don't know why I'm so hung up on the Carabelli's cusp, but like I just
It's
find
just a
it so
cute
interesting.
trait.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
So do certain d demographics have more pronounced Carabelli's
Mhm.
cusps? They do.
Yeah, with Carabelli's cusps, I don't remember the exact numbers. But there's other like the like I was saying, like groups with like an Asian descent will have more of that like spatula shaped
Hmm.
central incisors. Um, so we can like look at teeth and be like, okay, like these 6 or 7 traits that we're seeing on the teeth are more like pronounced, and it seems to be consistent in like these like different populations. Like Southeast Asian groups might have a higher likelihood of exhibiting traits than let's say like a European group.
Hmm.
So we can get a really good idea of like what populations a person um, might have an affinity towards with that.
Interesting. And then
Yeah.
so going into the DNA aspect of it, is that kind of uncover, is just like taking it to the next step to uncover why that feature might be there?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah. I would say that's kind of what is happening right now, but it's not really any research that I'm doing.
mhm.
I've done a little teeny bit. So I have a grasp of like what's going on, but it's more like I'm just like lurking in I'm like lurking in the literature and just seeing like what's coming out and
Yeah,
seeing what other people are doing 'cause it's exciting.
that's so interesting.
Yeah.
And with the teeth, because all these pictures that I'm seeing here of the cusp, it's all showing the upper teeth. So are the upper teeth and the upper and lower, they're not mirrored, I'm imagining, right? They're
Nope, they
very
are not
different.
mirrored. Yeah, so we look at a lot of different traits, and there are some teeth that like a trait will be unique to.
Hmm.
So we're not going to find a Carabelli's cusp necessarily like on a front tooth we don't really ever see that.
Hmm.
But there are traits that you might find consistent at like on groups of teeth. So your central, or sorry, your front, like your front teeth might have shared traits with bottom teeth, but it's usually how we do it is we look at a particular trait and it usually is something present on one or two teeth, and then we scale it. So things that you can see things on like the lower teeth that you wouldn't necessarily see on the top.
Interesting.
Hmm.
What's the deal with wisdom teeth? What's going on there? Like
Oh, wisdom
why
teeth are crazy. I
why
love
do they
them.
exist? Why do we pull them? Like what is going on?
I okay, so from what I know, it's like um oh man, I'm gonna get this
Like
wrong,
they almost
but
feel like the appendix of the mouth, where they're like,
kind of it's kind of crazy because some people like keep their wisdom teeth.
right. Like
Like they're like they don't have to get them pulled.
I just got mine out like 2 years ago, but like up until then, they were
Really?
like very much not a problem. Like
Yeah.
everyone I
Okay.
know got them out when we were much younger, and I got them out when I was
Mhm.
23. And
Yeah.
um, and it wasn't until because forever they were just like hanging out up here and down here, like they weren't moving.
Were they like erupted? Like were you able to eat with them? Or were they sideways?
They one, which side was it? Maybe my right side. One was completely sideways.
Hmm.
Um, and then some of them started to come through. So like they were like poking through the gums, but then they're starting to bump into the other teeth. So then I was getting like
Yeah.
some headaches and like jaw pain and stuff.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's why we needed to. But like it was so strange because forever they were just like hanging out and such a non-issue. And then they slowly just started coming out and then like bumping into everything. And I was like, where did these come from?
Yeah, they're so random. I think a lot of it is like maybe earlier in the human record, like there was less like crowding
Yeah, like have
present.
our
Like
jaws shrunk?
I don't know as much about this, but I have noticed that there's more like instance of like your teeth being like crowded together. Like you're seeing a lot of more people needing like braces, Invisalign, things like that to kind of help reduce crowding.
Hmm.
And a lot of that is aesthetic, but there's also a lot of it's easier to like get stuff like stuck between your teeth,
Hmm.
which can cause you to like get cavities easier. So it's not just aesthetic, like having all these like orthodontic care treatments for it. But it does seem like the third molars, like they're technically your third molars.
Hmm.
Your wisdom teeth, like they need pulled more often because there's just not space for them.
Yeah.
And if they do start to come in, they push like your back molars, they start pushing them together. Or they like are sideways. I'm pretty sure
Hmm.
like all of mine, I think I had mine out when I was like 19. They like all four of them were sideways, not going the right direction,
Yeah.
and it looks like a chipmunk for a week. It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, they're so funny. Like I just remember looking at the x-rays and I was like, how are all four of them were just like doing their own thing? I was like, one was sideways, one was coming through. I was like, what? And I'm curious
Yeah,
now,
they're
like what
so
you've told me about
strange.
like Neanderthal skulls and like how much more like robust and pronounced it was. Like
Hmm.
our our heads are obviously like a lot smaller. Like, are we continuing to shrink? Like, do we know? Okay, hold on. I have so many questions. Like,
Okay.
are our skulls shrinking? Are our mouths shrinking? Is that why we're seeing more crowding? Or is it like dietary, like the foods we're
I think it's more
eating?
dietary.
Okay.
Um, I think like the rate of this happening seems to like line up with is it the Industrial Revolution?
Hmm.
When we started to consume more foods that were like softer, like cooked foods that could like decay the teeth, decay the, decay the area. And it seems like crowding has become worse. Like pathology in general just seems to have increased like exponentially since like that occurred. And I
Hmm.
don't totally remember. like why that is. There's a lot of hypotheses on like why that has happened. Um, but the third molars are just always kind of in this like wonky situation in the mouth because not only are not only do they like erupt differently, some people don't even have them. Some people have one or maybe three or two, but like it just varies so much. And then also like the roots of the teeth are typically like kind of splayed out. Like if you've ever seen like a drawing of a tooth,
Hmm.
it has like the two roots and like a little smiley face.
Right.
These guys have fused roots. They look so weird.
Is it just like a knot of roots? Like they're just like,
Yeah, it's like they're like bound together.
what the hell?
Yeah.
Do we know
And
why they come in so late?
technically they're there like
I guess some people like when they get their second set of teeth in.
yeah, it's they grow in around the same time. It's just a lot of the time it seems like they don't erupt.
Interesting.
And by erupt, I mean like they don't like show,
Hmm.
or you'll see like a little version of it. So it's like interesting to me that you're like you had them the whole time. They just like weren't showing,
Yeah.
if
Like,
that makes
because
sense.
I remember getting x-rays like throughout my life and like we would see the wisdom teeth relatively
Mhm.
high. And then over time they just kind of like shifted around. And I don't know if it's because my braces, like everything like kind of shifted, so it created more room, or maybe they were not as high as I remember them and they were just like, I don't know. But I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, when I've looked at like X-rays, you generally like see them back there and they're just like hanging out. And sometimes people have them removed, but there's also times where people will just never have them removed or they never like fully erupt.
Hmm.
Um, it seems like most of the time when they do get removed, it's because it's causing like issues in the way like that you described earlier, like it's giving you headaches
Yeah.
or sometimes even like they'll start to kind of like come in and they'll put pressure on the tooth in front of it
Hmm.
and that can like affect the nerve there. It can cause the root, like if you're getting food stuck back there, it can cause like a lot of problems. So it's really common for them to get removed.
Yeah,
But
that's what was
as to
happening
why
with
they're
mine.
there and why they why they look the way they do, I don't totally get it
I
either. I don't think it's fully understood yet.
I wonder if I could find my x-ray. I would love to show you.
You should.
Um, oh God, what month was that? I have tens of thousands of pictures in my camera roll. So,
Hmm.
oh, I guess that was a year ago. That was 2024.
Okay, so
Um,
they're pretty recent.
yeah, I don't know why I thought that was 2 years ago. Oh, I found it. Wait, this is crazy. Um, I found my post-surgery pictures and videos.
Did you record yourself like with the anesthesia?
Yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was funny because my dental surgeon is an alumni of the same university I went to.
Hmm.
And we both went to University of California, Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And so like afterwards, you know, my mouth and I had all the gauze and I was on anesthesia. And I have a video of me like trying to talk to him about Santa Barbara and like the school. And
Yeah.
like I can't talk, but like I remember being like so clear of mind and just like trying to articulate myself. But it was so like I was like, "Oh, what street did you live on?" But like I just could not get it out. And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, like okay, we're just gonna give you these medications." And like
And you're like, I'm trying to ask you a
yeah.
legitimate question, but my words are not coming out.
Yeah. Oh, I found it.
Okay.
Let's go. I don't know how this is gonna with the little webcam.
Okay.
Um, but you can see this one is like completely sideways.
Oh, cute roots. Yeah.
And then like the one on the top wasn't that big of a deal, but started pushing.
Hmm.
And then you can see this one's pushing on the roots on the top.
Yeah, for sure. So do you see like I was trying to describe like how the roots are like fused
Hmm.
compared to the other teeth. So if you look at like those bottom molars, for example, in the picture you just showed me, you see like the separation of the root and how it kind of like bifurcates, like it
Right.
splits. But then the others, like the third molars, like I was saying, like it
Hmm.
kind of looks more like a
Right
single
here.
end. Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of like reattach to one another.
Uh-huh.
That's so interesting.
Hmm.
Um,
So like r roots of teeth also have traits too.
those can help
And
identify with. Oh, that's so
yeah.
interesting.
Hmm.
And do the roots are the roots do the roots survive as long as the teeth? Like, are they as well preserved as the teeth? And are they
Well,
made
they're
of this?
part of the tooth.
Okay, so it's still the same.
It's still like the same mineral structure, but it is like more common for them to break, I guess. Like because they're just thinner, like by
Mhm.
nature of like the structure of it. So it's really common like after an individual dies is like what holds the teeth in place is like the little ligament. Um, it's like the tissue structure there that keeps it like lodged in the socket, like in the bone.
Mhm.
Um, but usually what happens is like once that material is gone, the teeth will literally just like fall out on their own.
Yeah.
And you can look at like the pockets of bone that are there basically, like where the root was, to get an idea of root traits. But you can also just like look at the end of the tooth and observe it as also, which is
That's
pretty
so
cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Do different demographics have a higher likelihood of getting them pulled? Or, and like, I would
Mhm.
imagine that there's like a socioeconomic factor of that
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well
yeah.
because it's so
That it's
expensive.
definitely like deeply affected by that, and also maybe like the aesthetics, like in public health, kind of depending where you are.
Hmm.
So I think it varies a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you tell if someone's had braces just by looking at them? Or like
Um,
if you like have a skull
I
of
feel
like
like
a
I can
yeah.
because of maybe because I did dentistry for so long that I can kind of tell.
Hmm.
But you also have people who have like who have never needed anything and their teeth are just naturally straight.
Right.
But it's like funny because like we were talking about, I was just mentioning public health is like there's parts of the world where I remember when I was working in Europe, for example, where I remember having some researchers ask if I had had braces. I never had them,
Hmm.
but my teeth are just naturally like a little more uniform, I guess. And I remember my dad's like that, but my mom had to have braces, and then both of my two of my younger brothers did too. And it got me thinking, like, why do we focus so much on this like aesthetic, like everyone needs to have straight teeth? Like it seems like like so many people end up having braces in school
Hmm.
or Invisalign. But I remember in Europe, I mean, it's probably depends on wherever you are, but I remember where I was, it was like I remember they said something like you Americans are so like focused on having these straight perfect teeth. Like we can always tell like who is American or something, like based on how like white they are or how uniform. And it seemed to just come down to just like a difference in like what is like aesthetically like the popular thing.
Hmm.
So, like in the UK, I remember seeing like people with more like that crowding in the front, and people's teeth are not like like there's less focus on this like perfect pearly white smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember thinking like I had never even like considered that that might be like different
Yeah,
until I was there.
that is interesting. Like it is very much like an American centric beauty standard to have like the straight perfect teeth. And then like that's why we make fun of the Brits so much. Like that's like one of the main things between like Americans and
Yeah,
Brits is like the dental care or the teeth or whatever.
yeah. Like I mean, I don't really have any opinions either way about it. I just remember thinking like I never even considered that that might be something that like is not sought after. and
Right.
it just kind of blew my mind. But that's why
Yeah.
anthropology is so bringing it back full circle. That's why anthropology is so interesting as a field, not just the dental aspect. I know I've been like talking your ear off about teeth, but the study of anthropology and like humans and our culture and why we do what we do and how it varies all over the world is just insanely fascinating. And I think a lot of people practice anthropology without even realizing what it is.
Hmm.
So I hope maybe like me being on here encourages people to like look into it and start to interpret the world maybe a little differently. Like, why do we do what we do? How is our reality influenced by
Yeah.
what's going on around us?
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
really
it's been
cool.
such a fascinating conversation, and I appreciate
Mhm.
you taking the time and to share everything
Yeah,
with
thanks for
me.
the invite.
I do have one last question before I
Okay.
let you go. What bones are your earrings? I love your earrings. They're so cool.
Oh, thank you. So they're not actually bones. They are like little pieces of antler.
Oh,
Yeah, I got them at this like I'm trying to remember. I so right out of undergrad I moved to Alaska and lived over there for several years. And there's so many like amazing like indigenous artists there, and I sourced these from like a fair or something, and I wear them all the time. I think they're just like cool,
yeah, they're really
but
cool.
they're not actually bone. Yeah,
They're antler. Do you know what animal they're an antler of?
I don't remember.
They're
Maybe
really
a
cool
deer.
regardless.
I have no idea, but thank you.
They're really cool. Well, yeah, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate your
For
time.
sure.
And I learned so much. It was so much fun. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
All right. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Thank you.